Do some of the Indian players deserve the money that they're getting?
The BCCI announced the central contracts for the Indian players for the 2024-25 season a couple of days ago this week. And there were a lot of discussions in terms of which player deserves to be in which grade and how much they need to get paid. There was also a comment on a YouTube community post of how if I was an employee, I wouldn't want my salary to be out there in the public view. Now, before we get into our video and talk about which player deserves to be in which grade, hit that subscribe button.
The first player that we have to talk about is India's captain, at least till recently, in the test matches as well as the ODI setup, and that's Rohit Sharma. Rohit Sharma continues to stay on top of the contract list, getting an A+ contract from the BCCI for this year as well. Now, before we get into debating whether or not these players deserve the contracts they have and the levels at which they are, it's important to understand the tier A+ system. This is a tier that was set up for players in India who are playing all three formats and are also in a leadership group. And that's where we want to raise the question of whether or not Rohit Sharma should be in that A+ tier. The simple reasoning firstly is that he's now retired from the T20 internationals format. While he has been doing well in the ODI setup and has been scoring runs and has also won India the Champions Trophy, when it comes to the test matches, there are still a lot of question marks on Rohit Sharma. Since January of 2024, Rohit Sharma has featured in 14 test matches for India, where India have gone on to win 7 of these test matches, lost 6 of them and drawn 1 test match. While Rohit Sharma did have a decent home season to start off with wins against England and Bangladesh in the home series, the series against New Zealand was an absolute eye-opener as India went on to record their first home series loss since 2012. And to further rub salt in the wounds, even when India travelled to Australia having won the previous 2 Border Gavaskar trophies, they weren't able to emulate that, and all of this happened under the captaincy of Rohit Sharma.
In the 26 innings that Rohit Sharma has batted in the 14 tests since 2024, Rohit Sharma just has an average of 24 with just 200s and 250s in his name. It's not just this, it's the fact that after the 100 against England in India, Rohit has looked all over the place, not only at home but when India went down under to play against the Australians. Things were so bad for Rohit Sharma, the batter, not only in terms of technique but also in form. We have made an entire video about this. If you haven't checked that out, go check that out. But Rohit Sharma dropped himself from the squad for the last test match against Australia.
The only silver lining last year for Rohit Sharma was the fact that he was the captain in the ODIs and the Indian team did extremely well. Apart from an initial blip where India lost the series against Sri Lanka in Sri Lanka, India then came back strongly and went on to win the Champions Trophy in 2025. With 8 wins, 2 losses and 1 tie, you would say that Rohit Sharma did a really good job in captaining this side in the ODI setup.
Rohit Sharma was not only good as an ODI captain but also as an opening batter. In 11 innings, he had an average of 41 and a strike rate of 117 as an opening batter in the ODI format. With 100 and 350s in his name, no one's going to question the position of Rohit Sharma, the opening batter in the ODI format. But the real question is, based on all of this, does he still deserve the grade A+ contract?
The answer according to us is still a yes, and this is simply because of the fact that Rohit Sharma is still a big part of the leadership group. Heck, he's the captain of the Indian team in the 2 longer formats and he has given the results at least in the ODI setup. And also the fact that we are so close to the end of his career, meaning that he will probably be retiring after the end of his captaincy stint. Because of the fact that he's such a big part of the leadership role, it would be anything but disgraceful to have him under A+.
From Rohit Sharma, let's talk about another giant of Indian cricket, and that's Virat Kohli. Virat Kohli, of course, continues to get the grade A+ contract, but with him, things are a little more interesting. Not only has he retired from the T20 format, he's no more the captain in any of the formats for the Indian team. In the 21 innings that he took part in those 11 test matches since 2024, he has an average of just 23 with 100 and 150 in his name. Evidently, his test run hasn't been the greatest, or if anything, it's only been going down by the season. Virat Kohli was so bad this season that he had technical flaws against the spin bowlers in India, and he was found out by the Australian fast bowlers in Australia. Now, even in the ODI format, his numbers don't really stand out, and this isn't a standard created by him. This is just a standard created by international batters. For a man who's averaged close to 60 in his ODI career, in the 10 matches that he has played in the ODI format since 2024, he only averages 37, has only 100 and 250s.
And while if we look at it extremely objectively, it does feel a little bit forced that Virat Kohli is also getting an A+ contract. It almost feels like the same way that he was out of form but was still being persisted with, it's the same case here. Despite him being out of form and not performing, because of all of the service he's done for Indian cricket and because of the fact that Rohit Sharma also is an A+, it would be a crime, or it would be very difficult for the BCCI to reduce Virat Kohli's contract from an A+ to an A. And from here we come to the next name, that's Ravindra Jadeja, who has an A plus contract. But with Ravindra Jadeja, another very important person that we have to talk about is Axar Patel. And the reason that we want to talk about both of these players together is because they're essentially performing the same role for the Indian team. Not only because of the fact that they're both left arm bowlers as well as batters, but because of how their roles are. They can come in the middle order to bat, they can bowl those handy overs with their spin, and more importantly, they are in the contention for the Indian team across formats. Jaddu, of course, has retired from the T20I setup, but he is still a regular in the Test setup as well as the ODI setup. Whereas with Axar Patel, while he is a part of all three formats, Jaddu still gets the preference in the Test setup.
Now the problem lies here. Jadeja only plays two formats, of course the two longer formats, whereas Axar Patel has not only performed in the last couple of seasons, but plays all three formats. And the problem is that Jadeja gets an A plus contract, whereas Axar Patel is still in grade B. In test matches, of course, Jadeja has played a lot more test matches than Axar Patel has in the last season. Jadeja has played 13 test matches with a batting average of 28 and an impressive bowling average of 24. Whereas in the ODI format, even though Axar Patel has played a little more ODI matches than Jadeja, Jadeja still has very impressive numbers. Jadeja has played 7 matches with a batting average of 50 and a bowling average of just 22. In 7 matches, Jadeja has taken 11 wickets, whereas in 11 matches, Axar Patel has taken only 12 wickets. But Axar Patel triumphs Jadeja in the T20 format. Since 2024, in 21 matches, he's taken 26 wickets with an economy of 7.08. Whereas Jadeja, who only played 8 matches, of course he retired after that, he only picked up 1 wicket with an economy of 7.5.
On the basis of this comparison, you do realize that Jaddu has been slightly better than Axar Patel when it comes to ODIs, and Jaddu of course has played more test matches and has been a preference, but Axar Patel clearly trumps Jadeja when it comes to the shortest format, that is the T20Is. But even apart from all of this, Axar Patel, we know, has been an absolutely clutch player for the Indian team. His showings in the T20 World Cup, especially in that final that India played, and also his showings throughout the Champions Trophy, him coming up the order and getting those tough runs in the tricky situations in the Champions Trophy, and also bowling difficult overs in the power play along with the middle overs, means that Axar Patel is playing an equally important role for this Indian lineup. And considering all of this and the fact that he's now been doing it consistently for at least a couple of seasons for this Indian team, means that it would warrant him to get at least a grade A contract because of the fact that Jaddu is still getting an A plus contract.
With all of this going on, a lot of people were talking about why Rishab Pant still gets a grade A contract even though he's only a one format player as of now and a backup in the other two formats. In the 10 test matches that he has played since 2024, he has an average of 37. But Rishab Pant, the test player, goes beyond just numbers. A couple of years ago, BCCI did decide that test specialists will get grade A contracts because they want to encourage players to play the longer formats a lot more. This is also why we saw Rahane and Pujara a couple of years ago get the grade A contract while they were still only a test specialist, which is also why we continue to see Rishab Pant in the grade A contract. But since 2024, he has of course played 10 T20s and 1 ODI, which means he's still eligible to play those formats.
And from here we move to the current Indian T20I captain, and that's Surya Kumar Yadav. Now to us it was a bit of a surprise the fact that Surya Kumar Yadav, despite being an Indian captain, was given a grade B contract. Of course, because of the fact that he's only playing the T20Is, logically it might make sense for him to only have a grade B contract. But then you remember the fact that he actually is an Indian captain and he has been doing well. He's not lost a single bilateral series and that team is on an absolute rise. And so considering that fact and just the fact that he's an Indian captain, is it a little stingy that the BCCI only gave him a grade B? Could they have possibly given him a grade A contract? And from one Mumbai boy to the other, we move to Shreyas Iyer. After all of the news that Shreyas Iyer was a part of last year where he got dropped from the central contract, he is in fact back for the central contract for 2024-25 and he's got a grade B contract. Shreyas Iyer had an absolute blast of a domestic season as he dominated across formats right from Ranji Trophy to the Syed Mushtaq Ali tournaments. And his contributions weren't limited to just the runs that he scored, but also the fact that he was a captain and a successful captain at that. The Syed Mushtaq Ali was a standout tournament for him as Shreyas Iyer was the 4th highest run getter in that tournament, scoring 345 runs at an impressive average of 49 but an even crazier strike rate of 188. His Vijay Hazare tour was record breaking as he had an average of 325, getting dismissed just once, getting 325 runs in that tournament, going with 2 centuries. What also stood out was the sheer domination and how he took attacks apart, striking at 131 in the 50 over format. In the Ranji Trophy too, Shreyas Iyer had a good run with an average of 68.5, scoring 480 runs and getting 2 centuries.
And because of all these performances, Shreyas Iyer was obviously brought back into the Indian ODI format. In the 11 matches that he did play in the ODI format for India since 2024, he has an average of 42 with a strike rate of 93. And not just this, in the Champions Trophy, he was the highest scorer for the Indian team by scoring 243 runs with an average of 48 and a strike rate of 79. It obviously makes sense for Shreyas Iyer to be back in the contracts, especially at grade B straight away. And it's not just this, right? He is an IPL winning captain and he continues to be an IPL team captain. If Shreyas Iyer continues to perform like this, especially across formats in the domestic circuit, it's only about time Shreyas Iyer does get a better contract and is part of a conversation of him being part of a leadership group.
For someone who we've been extremely critical about, we still think that grade C is probably too low for him. Of course, we're talking about Washington Sundar. Washy, exactly like Axar Patel, is one of the few current Indian players who's been featuring across formats for this Indian team. Washington Sundar had an excellent series as he picked up a lot of wickets against New Zealand, and because of this, he was also preferred over someone like Ravichandran Aswin when it came to that Border Gavaskar trophy. In the 23 games that Washy has played across formats, he's picked up 42 wickets for the Indian team in the last season. Because of the fact that Gautam Gambhir is the coach and his preference for all-rounders is something that we all know of, it is still a big surprise that Washington Sundar getting picked in all 3 formats still has a grade C contract.
From talking about players who deserved more or less, the 2 surprise picks in this contract list is Ishan Kishan and Rajat Patidar. Ishan Kishan might have been dropped from the contract list, but according to his domestic numbers, there is no reason for him to get a contract from the BCCI. He had a decent Syed Mushtaq Ali with an average of 32 and a strike rate of 167, but then when you look at his Vijay Hazare and Ranji Trophy numbers, he doesn't really have a standout performance. In the 4 matches that he did play in the Ranji Trophy, he has an average of just 29, whereas in the Vijay Hazare Trophy, of course he's done better. He has an average of 45 and a strike rate of 128, but he isn't even the highest scorer for the Jharkhand team that he plays for. Statistically and objectively speaking, there is no reason for Ishan Kishan to get a contract, but when you think deeper, the only reason one can think of is if he is a backup wicketkeeper, maybe in the ODI format. And for a lot of people, this should be a surprise with Rajat Patidar getting a contract because he just played those couple of test matches against England, did not perform, and then got dropped and hasn't worn an India shirt ever since. But of course, in the domestic circuit, his numbers do stand out in the Syed Mushtaq Ali Trophy, where he was the second highest run scorer by scoring 428 runs with an average of 61 and a strike rate of more than 180. Now, this begs the question if we'll see Rajat Patidar more in the T20 format and possibly back again in the test format.
If Rajat Patidar and Ishan Kishan are both eligible to get at least C contracts from the BCCI, then why not Shardul Thakur? Shardul Thakur has probably had one of the most blockbuster seasons in the domestic circuit across formats for an Indian all-rounder. In the Ranji Trophy, not only has he been clinical with the ball, being the second highest wicket taker for Mumbai with 35 wickets, but he's also the second highest run scorer for that Mumbai team. He scored 505 runs with an average of 42, 104 50s to his name, and we do remember how many times Shardul Thakur came in that lower order and saved Mumbai from tricky situations. Even in the Syed Mushtaq Ali tournament, he bowled well and was the best bowler for Mumbai in terms of the wickets he got, taking 15 wickets at an economy of 10.5. Even in the Vijay Hazare Trophy, he was the highest wicket taker with 10 wickets for the Mumbai team, but he even made some handy contributions with the bat, scoring 132 runs at an average of 44 that season. With all the conversation around Shardul Thakur and whether or not he might finally get a call-up back into the Indian test team for the England series, it is a surprise that he's not been handed a contract, and it will be surprising if he's not at least featuring on that plane for the India A tour to England.
Couple of names that did miss out on the season's contract are Avesh Khan and Jitesh Sharma. It might be unfortunate for them, especially because of how they're performing in the current IPL, but by no means do these contracts mean that they're out of India's contentions. They will of course be chosen and picked if they continue to perform in the domestic circuit. Something else to note here is the fact that unlike last year, this year there is no fast bowling contract list. So there are a couple more people who are out of contracts as compared to last year. Now this has been a video on players and the BCCI contracts handed to them and if they deserved higher or lower contracts. If you have enjoyed this video, like, share and subscribe, all that good stuff. All of our links are in the description below. If you haven't followed us on our Instagram and Twitter, please do that too. If you haven't subscribed to our newsletter, subscribe to that too. And if you haven't followed our WhatsApp channel, it'll help us if you do that too. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.